Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I wanted to bring you a complete review of the Yuletide Tarot by Christopher Hughes, and art is by Erin O'Leary Brown. This is a Llewellyn deck, so you can purchase it anywhere you can buy tarot decks, pretty much. It is a mass market deck. It comes in your standard Llewellyn tuck box, or sorry, magnetic closure box, not tuck box. The guidebooks by Llewellyn are really excellent. This one has a full page reproduction of each card. It's colored and there's a lot of information for each card, and you get keywords. For each card, you'll get a description of the card, and then your divinatory and reverse meanings. There's spreads. I know there's a Yule tree spread as well that I'm dying to try this year. So I think it's a nice guidebook. It's really meaty. As you can see, it's actually really quite thick. This is one of the thicker Llewellyn guidebooks that I own currently, and I just really enjoy the look of the magnetic closure box. I don't typically keep the guide, or I don't typically keep the boxes that you get from Llewellyn because they're just so large, but I'm considering keeping this one just because of how adorable it is. But let's get into the cards. So I like to keep my Llewellyn decks in tarot bags, or I'll just keep them out. So it's just easier for me. I know I've spoken a little bit about this deck already on my channel. I think that this is an excellent deck. The creators of the deck did an excellent job at creating a deck that is based on the Yule or Christmas, however you want to look at that, while still remaining true to the Rider-Waite-Smith system and structure. A lot of the cards, they all have, at least to me, they all have your standard Rider-Waite-Smith meaning, but it's still true to that Christmas or Yule lens in regards to like the imagery. So I really like how they paired the two. I think that they did an excellent job at merging the two. And I find that the deck is really balanced because it's not just Yule or winter themed imagery. I find it to be also very modern. So they took all your, your traditional meanings and representations of Yule and Christmas, and they kind of gave it a modern twist. So I appreciate that about the deck, and you pretty much know what you're looking at when you're looking at the card. So I appreciate that as well. I'm not trying to guess what the card is meaning, or I find it very straightforward. I find this deck to be very realistic. It's a very grounded deck as well. It's very easy to read because of the imagery and how modern it can be in some of these images. So if I was going to give this deck an astrological sign, I would give it Taurus, or the Hierophant. It's very steeped in, like I said, that Yule and Christmas tradition, but it does, like the core of the Hierophant card. Yes, it's important to honor and maintain traditions, but you also need to understand when things need to be updated or changed. So I like that this deck does that. They take, your traditional standard Christmas and Yule themes, and they give it that modern twist and that modern look. So it's not just balanced in the sense of like the unity with the Rider-Waite-Smith system as well as the Yule and Christmas imagery. It's balanced also in the sense that a lot of the cards do represent a lot of the more positive things, like how the Yule can bring people together, and just the holiday cheer, as well as how you can experience a lot of stress. Like some people don't experience the Yule as being this really positive and happy time. Some people find Christmas to be incredibly stressful and they feel a lot of pressure to spend insane amounts of money. So you'll see that represented in the cards as well. It's not just happy, positive, cheerful. In the imagery, you'll see some more, you'll see stressful situations in the imagery as well. So I really appreciate that about the deck, and I find it balanced because of that. Also because of the more modern imagery, I find it easy to use the card in a divinatory way, either for making predictions as well as, not that I typically do that, but I do also find it easy to work with when you're trying to figure out a specific situation. It's very easy to tell what situation in your life the deck is talking about when you're drawing maybe your card a day, or if you're trying to figure out a specific thing in your life, or if you have a very specific question. I find it's very easy to read because of the imagery and how modern it is. It's easy to tell what it's talking about. So for personality, like I said, I do align the deck with having a personality that's associated with the astrological sign of Taurus. But again, this deck is incredibly grounding and realistic in my opinion, because I find that the imagery, it's very realistic. It's situations that you can find yourself in, and it's not like one of those other decks that takes you or teleports you to almost like a different world, like the Alice in Wonderland tarot. The Forest of Enchantment is another great example. Those tarot decks that they just seem to take you to a completely different world. A lot of the dream themed decks do that as well, or decks that can really invoke your intuition or your emotions, such as the Witch's Tarot by the Burning Paper Hearts. So that's why I appreciate this deck. I don't have very many decks like this in my collection where it depicts very modern situations throughout the imagery, while at the same time maintaining a lot of the Yule and Christmas traditions that you're probably very familiar with. So I appreciate that. I appreciate this quality about this deck, and it's, like I said, it's definitely unique to my collection. I don't have anything like this. Also, it's really difficult to find a winter themed deck as well. Now I wanted to go over some of my favorite cards before I talk to you about some pairings that I like to pair my Yuletide tarot with, oracle pairings. So as I've already mentioned in one of my other YouTube videos, I pulled this card a lot while I was doing inner child work. Sorry, excuse me, I'm a little congested, so I'm struggling with my voice a little bit. So I really found this image to be very interesting, and I think that it really does apply very well to what the Justice card represents, and how it can often appear energetically. It's just oftentimes when you're dealing with the Justice card and this type of an energy, it's just interesting to think how the scales will sort of rebalance. So in this particular situation, the child was probably misbehaving, so the parents decided to give the child coal, but they're not considering how this is then going to affect them, how they're going to be consequenced for this action. And I feel like when you're dealing with the Justice card, it goes a lot deeper than what you originally anticipate. And I really thought that this is a very interesting depiction of the Justice card, and it really had me thinking. And I appreciate decks like that. So with this card, the Nine of Canes, which is the Nine of Swords, it looks like he's got receipts and he's probably trying to, I don't know, maybe he's got a budget or something and he's trying to balance it. And it's keeping him up at night. I think that this is an excellent interpretation of your standard Nine of Swords card in your Rider-Waite-Smith deck, but through the lens of Yule or Christmas. And this is an excellent interpretation. I'm sure a lot of people experience these moments. The next card that I have here is they've changed the Fool card to the Child, and he's looking at the he's looking for Santa in the fireplace, which I thought, this is such a cute representation or interpretation of the Fool card, and I'm sure a lot of us can remember being children and doing this. This is like one of my favorite cards in the deck. It reminds me of when I was a child, and it's one of the reasons why I can connect with this deck as an inner child, because I have a lot of positive feelings when it comes to Christmas. I've always found the Christmas season or holiday to be extremely like a magical holiday. I've always appreciated how it has the ability to bring people together. And I've always, like ever since I was a child, I've always liked to see how people, they'll decorate their houses, they put lights up, they'll decorate their trees, or they'll decorate their house even for Christmas. And I just like how, like so many of us do that. It's like a collective experience. And I find people tend to be nicer around this time of the year. I completely understand that some people don't have particularly positive experiences with Christmas. And like I said, that's why I appreciate this deck having that balance in the imagery, so like it shows the positives and the negatives to the season. So the next card that I really liked was the Death card. I think that it's a very beautiful card. It's a beautiful image. Reminds me of, I can't remember the Christmas movie right now, but the Ebenezer Scrooge scene where he's visited by the three ghosts. I can't remember their names right now. Let me know in the comment section below. So just for this is my, I guess, personal gnosis in regards to this card. So the Four of Canes, this is the Four of Swords. The deck turned canes. I think canes is swords, good cheer is cups, presents is obviously pentacles, and then candles is your wands suit. So I just had, when I drew this card back in November, this card made me think of showing reverence and honor towards a situation in your life that is dead or changed. The grave reminded me of how when people visit the departed, it can be sometimes a very emotional experience. It can bring up a lot of pain, anger, grief, and it can bring up the past as well. And it can correlate to, I'm sure, a lot of situations. So I could see this is almost being like a huge release. And with the graveyard, it just gave me like a death energy, honestly. It's almost like they kind of merged the two of them together. So the last part of this video, I just wanted to go over some of the pairings. Of course, I'm sure the Yule, Seasons of the Witch Yule Oracle would probably go fairly well with this deck. I don't have that deck because I didn't feel called to purchase it. Instead, I think I had pre-ordered the Soul Mirror Oracle from, I think, Barnes & Noble. And I don't like to order too many decks to work with at the same time. I like to, you know, spend at least a month getting to know one or two decks together if I'm pairing them. So unfortunately, I didn't feel called to purchasing it. I don't think that it's time. But what I do have that I think works really well, I'll mention my top favorite pairing here. I have A Compendium of Witches. It's published by Lo Scarabeo. It's a beautifully illustrated deck. Before it went mass market, it was actually, I think, an indie deck. The creator of the deck is on Etsy. And I find that the two decks just complement each other. And I find that they just work really well together. I haven't pulled too many cards like outside of the figures in the Compendium of Witches. I'll zoom you out a bit more. And I can't tell you how many times I've pulled a spread from the Yuletide Tarot, and I pulled an oracle card from this deck, A Compendium of Witches Oracle. And it's gotten it just perfect. The other day, I pulled the Reconciler. Let me see if I can find it. And it was so perfect. I'll show you some cards while I'm at it, looking for the card that I pulled the other day. It just really explained what I was feeling, and it almost like tied everything in a nice, neat little bow. But as you can see, there's tools, there's figures in the deck. So they're supposed to be witches archetypes, and there's a pretty even, balanced depiction throughout the deck. When it comes to the figures, you'll have like there's older women, younger women. It's like a good balance in regards to that. And I just love this deck so much. It's so pretty. I don't know, I probably passed her. Anyway, I think that they just work really well together. As I've mentioned before, a lot of the times I like to pull a figure from the deck, and then I will intuitively read it. I'll read the guidebook. Sometimes I even like to meditate with the messages that are coming through from the archetypal person, because I think these are all women that actually lived at one point. So this is the first pairing. Now, another pairing that I have done, but I tend to actually just use this deck on its own. This is the Botanical Oracle. It's by For Strange Women, I think. It comes in this 2-piece box. It's a pretty nice fit for your cards. It does, however, come with like only a pamphlet with like maybe a couple of keywords to describe what each card means. You can also purchase this deck on their Etsy shop, by the way. So this is probably one of my favorite oracle decks. I use this only to speak with my my matron, patroness, goddess, Hecate. which is why I like to work with this deck on its own. But I have pulled this deck out a couple of times to read with the Yuletide Tarot, because I do, when I'm doing my daily routine, I like to pull 3 cards, 3 tarot cards and 1 oracle card to get like an outlook for the day. So I am planning on doing a full review of the Botanical Oracle eventually, where I can go over some of my specific meanings, because like I said, the little pamphlet that it comes with, it doesn't really provide very good information. It's excellent for just getting like a quick jump off point, but I find that this deck works way better when you're using it intuitively. And just using the animal or plant correspondences that you have, that are personal to you. And I just find that this deck works way better that way. So obviously this isn't for a beginner, unless you are excellent with working intuitively with stuff, then maybe consider it. But lastly, like I said, I recently got this deck in. I pre-ordered it back in July, and I just got it, I think, in November, I want to say, around the same time I purchased the Yuletide Tarot. So I was using the 2 of them together, and I found that they just gave a really good balance, like the darkness, because this deck, it's very little color. There's only little pops of color here, and most of the cards have black backgrounds. So I think that this is an excellent deck for working around this time of the year when it starts to get darker and darker as we're approaching Yule or Christmas, winter. And this deck, like I've mentioned previously, I'm doing a lot of inner child work, or shadow work, and this deck it's created for shadow work. It's called the Soul Mirror Oracle, and in the guidebook it gives you kind of like journal prompts along with the meanings of each card. So I was using it for the journal prompts, and I find that, like, it's here, the reflection part of each card. It'll give you some journal prompts, and I find that usually this will get to whatever the heart of the matter is, if I can't get it in either the keywords or within the meaning of the cards. So also just the journal prompts are really helpful. This is published by Blue Angel. Again, mass market. The only deck that wasn't mass market is the Botanical Oracle that I showed you, by For Strange Women. So as for inner child work, I know I've mentioned I'm doing a lot of inner child work, and I was using this deck to connect with my inner child. I find that the modern interpretations of each card is very helpful for understanding certain patterns and behaviors that we might have inherited from our parents or even our grandparents. That is my Yuletide Tarot review. Let me know in the comment section below what you think. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.